I've had this light above my driveway for a few years and it recently started acting up. During the day it randomly flashes at any motion, and that's all day, every day. Then at night when it senses motion it does come on, but it only stays on for about 15 seconds or so, and that's no matter the setting. As you can see here, we have it on a setting that is about 2.5 minutes, which is not happening. When Onforu reached out and asked if I was interested in making a video of any of their products, I had my fingers crossed they'd have a replacement for this light, and thankfully they did. The 5-head motion security light caught my attention and was promptly shipped and received. Thank you, Onforu. This is the box it arrived in, and it did arrive safely and without any damage to the inner components. Inside the box, we received the light, the instructions, a mounting gasket and bracket, screws, and a bag of wire nuts and screws with anchors if needed. This is an overview of everything we got. Now it's time to get this thing installed. Before I can install the new light, I've got to get this old one off. That's a fairly easy process, but first we do have to kill the power. This one will be easy because when it was installed, they added a plug to it and plugged it into the garage door receptacle. We can see there where the wire comes in, and we can follow it and then unplug it. I haven't had a chance to take the 95 Nissan hardbody out for a spin here in the past couple months, but it'll be more than happy to help us out with this task. And now the power is off. Let's get to uninstalling. Once I pop this rubber cap, I'll have access to the only Phillips screw holding this light to the mounting block. Now that that is out, I have access to the back where the wiring is located. From there, I can twist the wire nuts off and remove the light. Now I'll remove the old gasket, which wasn't doing a great job since it was bunched up inside the mounting block like that, but that does complete the uninstall, and now it's time to install our new light. I'm going to go ahead and familiarize myself with the gasket and the new bracket before I get up on the ladder, as well as go ahead and change the orientation on this light so that it looks like what it's supposed to look like. Working with this light is kind of like playing with a Rubik's Cube. You have to keep twisting pieces until you get everything the way you want it. There's only one connection that requires a screwdriver, and eventually you will get everything in the right direction. And once everything is in the right direction, go ahead and screw it down so it's nice and tight. The bracket's centerpiece has a raised part that has to line up to the base of the light, which has a matching recessed area. So when we install that bracket, we'll have to keep that in mind. The gasket looks a bit funny at first because there's a centerpiece that we can remove, and there is a pillow back because the gasket does have adhesive on it. Now that I know we don't need the old bracket, I'll go ahead and remove that. As I start to install the new bracket, I'm realizing we're not going to have much room for the wires. The new light doesn't have any room in the base, and the bracket only has a small opening. But before we go any further, I'm going to remove the caulk that's still remaining. That way we get a good seal with our new gasket. I found a small plastic putty knife, did well for this activity. Since the space for the wires and wire nuts is limited inside this mounting block, I'm going to have to cut the wires. But first, let's see if we can pull some slack out from the back, which is not happening. So let's go ahead and cut these wires down. If there is a difficult part about installing a light, it's holding the light while you connect the wires, especially in this case since I'm up on a ladder. So I'm going to try to use a couple small bungee cords I had sitting around to MacGyver a hanger. And guys, I'm going to be honest with you, after coming up with this, if Elon ever does go to Mars, he's going to have to take me with him. And there were a few screws in the back, so I wanted to make sure this is the right one to mount it to the bracket, and yep, appears to be. And I don't want to stick the gasket on quite yet. I want to get everything lined up. So I'm going to cut all this paper off that's in the center. That way I can get it around my wires and kind of have it sitting there ready to go. Alright Elon, this is how we're going to engineer this up. I'm going to loop this around here and attach it here, and we've got a makeshift hanger. Alright, that worked out perfect. Now we can go ahead and get this thing wired up, but first we do want to put this gasket on first before we start wiring. Wait a minute. Come on, man. Don't embarrass us in front of Elon. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, just kind of get that out of the way, and then we're going to put these wire nuts on. Alright, we got them on there. Quick pull test on everything to make sure it's in there tight, and it is. Now we'll undo our hanger, that way we can get the gasket backing peeled off and stuck to where we need it. Now here I am going to need both hands to get the backing off this gasket, so we're really going to check and see if our wires are secure, because we're going to let them hang by the wire nuts. And yep, that seems to be working. I'm realizing this gasket is way better than the one that was on the previous one. It fits just perfectly on the outside of the bracket and sticks to the mounting block. And this is the part I was worried about. We don't have a lot of room inside this box, so trying to force these wire nuts into that little small hole there was my main worry. I think it's going to be okay. And then the rest of the wire that comes with the light, I think there's just enough room in the base of that light to have it kind of fit in between the base and that bracket. Now, in case you're wondering, like I was, why there's not a ground, according to the directions, it's not needed. You want to tuck those wires out of the way of the center hole, as you don't want your screw to nick the wire, and you don't want them laying on the gasket, as it could damage the wire, but it will definitely prevent the gasket from doing its job. So as you can see, I've dropped the mounting screw. Since I have everything perfectly tucked away, I don't want to let it dangle like I did before. So Elon, this is for you. Back to some engineering 101. This screw is extra long, so I'm going to use the impact driver to get it in there, but I'm going to be careful because I don't want to strip this hole out. And then I'll finish up with the screwdriver, that way I make sure I do not strip the hole out. And this thing is extra tight. I'm loving the way that it's just perfect on that gasket. Now I am going to come back later and put some silicone around the top and the sides to make sure no water can get in, but honestly, with the way that gasket is and as tight as it is against the gasket, I don't think we're going to have any water issues anyways. Now let's get the power hooked up and see if this thing works. One thing I did notice about this unit is it doesn't have a test function. So usually they'll have a test function so you can try it out in the daylight, but this one here, the setting is so sensitive, it was coming on anyway, so we can tell it works now. And I'm going to have to mess around with that setting to try to get it not to come on during the day. So the second knob is the one we're going to have to adjust, and the instructions say if it's on plus, it'll work during the day, and if it's on minus, it'll only work during ambient light at a certain level. So let's turn this all the way to negative and see if that keeps it off during the day. And it did take a little bit for it to go off, then I came back out to test it, and yep, it's staying off during the day, so that's good. I'm going to get some more footage at night, show you guys what it looks like. Alright, here's the night test. I'm walking down my sidewalk and that's my neighbor's house over there. Let's see if the motion picks us up and how bright it is. Oh wow, nice. This is much brighter than the previous light and covers a lot more area. I want to give a shout out to Onforu for hooking us up with this. If you like this light, check the description for a link, or you can go to Onforu's website with discount code ON10 for a 10% discount.